Hello, my name is Erik Wolken and welcome to my video series exploring some of the techniques that I use in my work. And a technique that I use fairly commonly in my work is a process called gel medium image transfer. And it's a pretty simple process by which you can take about any transferred photocopied or laser printed image and print it onto just about any kind of surface. And I've successfully done this on wood, veneer, plexiglass, and many other surfaces. And all it really requires is acrylic gel medium, which is a paint-like substance that you can get at just about any art supply, hobby, or craft stores. So I'm not going to demonstrate this process. There's a lot of great videos on the web that demonstrate this process. In particular, I'd go to Golden Acrylic Artist Paints. They do a great job of explaining this process, and they also sell some wonderful projects in which you can experiment with different kinds of acrylic gel mediums. What I'd really like to talk about is why I use this process. And simply said, why I use this process is that I use images in my work to help create a narrative, to help tell a story. I think my work's at its strongest when it provides this storytelling sort of documentary role. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to walk you through some images of my work, and we're going to talk about why and how I've used images to help create this narrative effect in my work. It was this image of myself as a small child that first sparked me to think of incorporating applied images to my work. I was working on a series of cabinets based on abstracted torso forms, but it felt like the shapes alone just did not make for a complete idea. It just did not tell the story I felt the piece needed. Once I added the images, the piece for me began to connect with this lost part of my childhood in which the expressive shapes of the torsos met the happy image of the child. I started using just the one image in the first two pieces and manipulating it in various different ways in Photoshop so each cabinet could tell a different version of the same story. The next two torso pieces were created after my father's death, the first using an image of my father with my sister and I on the deck of a cruise ship when we were sailing to France when I was 6 years old. The image gets fuzzier from top to bottom to mirror that of my memory. The other piece includes a favorite image of my father looking much like a character in the Grant Wood painting, American Gothic. This piece was created in memoriam to my brother, a choreographer and modern dancer. The idea for the piece started with a photo I had found of him performing a piece he choreographed and danced in the 1970s called Pseudopodia. Again, using a single image, I photoshopped out part of the background and progressively shrank the image across the four panels of the top, so it was as if my brother's life exited the stage as he was dancing across the piece. The piece sits on top of these abstracted figures, also carrying them off into the next world. Dancing Cabinet also started with an image of my brother dancing, but in this piece I wanted to create the feeling that the cabinet was moving almost as a mirror image of the picture of my brother dancing across the drawer fronts. I wanted to have the feeling that the cabinet was being flung in the air, very similar to the same feeling you got from the picture. These images, which I found of my aunt, which had been taken in something like a photo booth, probably sometime in the late 50s or early 60s, were the images that drove my next idea for a piece. They are unique in that each image is slightly different, with the pose being slightly different. And it felt like they told the story all in of themselves, and all they needed was a canvas to be placed on. I used my freeform bending technique to then devise these rather life vest looking elements which I placed the images on, hence the name Life Vests. Finally, Troubled Waters was a piece in which the idea for the polluted water emerging from the mystery box cabinet came first, but I somehow wanted to hammer home the idea of how polluted water has an impact on us all.